Hello everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the Resident Evil Iceberg. So today we're going to be covering part 1 of tier 4 of the Iceberg. And the title for tier 4 is RPD Officer, and the description for it reads, a fighter for justice who has witnessed the beginning of the apocalypse. The entries in this tier start to skirt the line between common and uncommon knowledge for the average RE fan. And to start off, the first topic we have is taunting enemies in RE5. So a lot of fans may not know that if you press down on both of the thumbsticks while playing Resident Evil 5, you can taunt the enemies, such as this clip here. And this just allows you to, draw enemies away from your AI partner or your, partner in co-op. But they don't really advertise it. I don't even think they have like a prompt for it, if I recall. So it's just kind of an unknown feature for the game. The Last of Us influences in Revelations 2. So a lot of people online say that Revelations 2 is heavily inspired by The Last of Us, which yeah, I can kind of see it. Namely with like Barry and Natalia in that game. Kind of the archetype of the gruff older survivor, escorting a young girl with special powers. So, Joel and Ellie. And a lot of the environments in Revelations 2 are overgrown with vegetation, similar to The Last of Us. And finally, the workstations act very similarly to the workbenches in Last of Us. Like, yeah, I mean, the inspiration is definitely clear there. But a lot of the games coming out around this time also copied aspects of The Last of Us, so it's not surprising. Invisible pesetas after minecart section. So there's a glitch after the minecart section in the original version of RE4. So after you get out of the minecart ride with Luis, if you go to the next room and hug the left wall, there are several invisible piles of gold that you can pick up. And this, it's less so a glitch, it's more of like a oopsie from Capcom that they left in. But these can be found in every version of the original RE4. RE5 special POV death animation. So there's a special animation that you can get that's pretty disturbing where the townspeople just like curb stomp you to death. Ashley suplex glitch. So while you play as Ashley in the original RE4, there is a glitch that you can have when you open a door where the suplex prompt will pop up, allowing Ashley to suplex an enemy, which shouldn't normally be possible. Mutated gorillas. So there was a planned enemy for the original version of RE2 before it got rebooted into the product we know today, where there was going to be a zombie ape. And as well as in the RE1 remake, there's this note that mentions a creature that looks like a skinned gorilla, but it actually turned out to be the hunters. But mutated primates do appear. They're called eliminators, and they appear in both RE0 and the Umbrella Chronicles. But they look more like baboons than gorillas. RPD model. So I'm not entirely sure what this means. In the RE2 remake, you can unlock like certain models of characters and enemies and like weapons and stuff, but you can't unlock one of the RPD itself. And aside from this, many people have made models in like Blender and in real life and stuff like that with like plastic miniatures and stuff like that. It also could refer to the fact that in game, the entire like building itself is just one model from start to finish, which allows you to just like run through it. There's no loading screens. So that might be what it's referring to. Erotic death animations. So fans, I guess, really like it when the characters do something suggestive right before they get killed in a horrible way. Jill's hair color change. So there's actually a lore reason for Jill's hair changing to blonde rather than, Capcom just wanting her to match with Wesker, as they're both the villains of the game. But due to her getting the vaccine in RE3 after being infected with the T-virus, the virus laid dormant within her cells until she was captured by Wesker, and he experimented on her with multiple other viruses. Doing this caused her T-virus abilities to awaken, and part of it, and one of the side effects of this was her, hair color changing to blonde. Resident Evil 1 Sega Saturn differences. So the Sega Saturn port of the game has a few differences and additions to the other versions. The most notable one is a thing called Battle Game. So this is a mode that consists of 15 rooms that the player must defeat every enemy in, along with 3 safe rooms. And several new enemies appear in this mode along with the base game. Exclusive to that mode is a golden tyrant that you have to fight. And in the base game, there's these things called ticks now. And these replace the hunters in the underground area of the game, but the hunters do still appear in the mansion. And there's also a zombie Wesker in the battle mode. And in the base game, Chris gets a second tyrant to fight immediately after he defeats the first one. Along with that, there's some uncensored scenes, and the graphics are touched up as well. RE3 and Dino Crisis have each other's demos. So this is just the fact that both games came with a disc of the other game's demo. Sheva is left-handed. So because Sheva is left-handed, when you play as her, she'll be on the right side of the screen instead of the left. So playing as her can kind of get some taking used to, as it's the complete opposite from Chris, who's on the left side of the screen. Will Pharma. So these are the main bad guys of Resident Evil Degeneration, and they worked with President Graham's administration to produce and spread a vaccine for the T-virus after it had been spreading due to Umbrella's collapse. And after they successfully deployed the vaccine in 2002, during an outbreak in India, they received congressional funding and were given the go-ahead to mass produce the vaccine. And in 2005, leaked footage of an incident caused by an unauthorized drug trial was released, which damaged the company's reputation. And soon after that, in late November, a disgruntled ex-employee bombed the city where Will Pharma was located, which released the T-virus into the city. But luckily, Leon and Claire were able to stop it, and the company collapsed and was absorbed into Tricell. So during a section in RE5, you can find a Fox News logo on one of the monitors. I'll link the video for it down below. Letter to the Shopkeeper. So this is something that Capcom added into the RE2 remake when the RE3 remake was coming out. In Kendo's shop, you can find a letter left by Jill for Kendo, and it reads, "Kendo, it seems like you've got your reasons for staying put, so I'll trust you to take care of yourself. Still, if things get worse and your other arrangements don't work out, you know where to find me. I'll do everything I can. Jill Valentine." And collecting this unlocks the Chasing Jill trophy. Jay's Bar. So otherwise known as Jack's Bar. This is a location primarily featured in Outbreak. It serves as the game's starting area. The characters are just chilling inside when a zombie breaks in and attacks them. And they manage to escape the bar, and the rest of the game plays out. It's also featured in Outbreak File 2 and the Umbrella Chronicles. RE3 Mr. X's. So Umbrella actually sent at least 6 Tyrant T-103 models into Raccoon City during the outbreak. And they had several missions. The first one, the T-00, was sent to retrieve Sherry's pendant, which held the G-virus, and to eliminate anyone still alive in the RPD. So this is the Mr. X that we know from RE2. And the other 5 were sent to eliminate the Delta Force soldiers in the incineration plant. And you can find the bodies of these tyrants near the end of RE3. Black Voids. So this could refer to several things that I found online. Some people call them molded in RE7 Black Voids. There's also a known glitch during the section where you play as Sherry in the RE2 remake, where the orphanage doesn't load and there's just a black void. And finally, because we always come back to this, I saw fans complaining that there's a black void underneath the female Ganado's dresses in the RE4 remake, because of course. Lickers evolved from Crimson Heads. So this is actually true. Technically, I'll explain it. So the reason Crimson Heads happen is actually due to a singular strain of the T-virus named the Epsilon strain. And this was developed to increase the chances of a human mutating into a tyrant while limiting damage done to the brain. And during a surgical procedure in the Umbrella lab, an accident caused by the Queen Leech caused the virus to become airborne and spread throughout the facility. And eventually the people exposed would become zombies, and later evolved into the Crimson Heads. And after this, Umbrella would experiment more on Epsilon, and they created a mutated strain that would turn the zombies into lickers this time. So technically, yes, they did evolve from Crimson Heads, but there's a lot of steps in between. Herb weed memes. So this is just the fact that they show the herbs on paper, and they never show how the characters consume them, so it can kind of be assumed that they smoke them. So yeah, maybe it's just weed and they're just feeling good. Who knows? Invisible jet ski. So there's a pretty funny meme in the original RE4 where Leon will just ride away on an invisible jet ski, leaving Ashley in the dust to fend for herself. RE2 truck visible in RE3. So I assume that this means that you can find the truck that crashes in RE2 during RE3, but I couldn't find any posts about it, so if you have any ideas, leave it down below. It might have just been something I missed in the background of my playthrough of RE3. Multiple lab moths. So I believe this is referring to the moth enemies in Code Veronica. These respawn constantly and will try to land on Claire and plant an egg. And while these can poison and harm you, they can't ever kill you. They're very weak and can be killed with one shot. And there's a certain hallway in the game that is infamous because it contains many of these enemies and it can be annoying to traverse over and over. RE6 Hidden Playground Scene. So during Chris's campaign, him and Pierce can take a break from fighting and play in the playground. This includes going down the slide and riding a panda. Ada can also go down the slide in her campaign, but unfortunately she cannot ride the panda. Sad times. Alternate Mendez cutscene. So in the OG RE4, if you follow Mendez after he chokes you, you'll get a scene where Ada shoots him and he dives out of the window trying to catch her. Water key sequence. So in RE0, there's an infamous section where you have to fight 2 hunters in order to get the water key. So this is a hard fight, but defeating them will grant you the key and allow you to progress the game. Chris was supposed to die in RE6. So during development, Capcom was planning on killing Chris off at the end of RE6 in like a heroic stand for the character. But eventually they decided against it and gave the death to Piers instead. RE4 Silencer. So this was a weapon mod for the handguns in RE4. And it was in the original public beta for the game, but only obtainable in the base game through hacking. But in Mercenaries, Wesker gets it and you can combine it with his handgun while playing as him. Akuma in RE2. So this was an April Fool's joke in the EGM2 gaming magazine. So they claimed if you typed Akuma into the laboratory console in RE2, you could unlock the character. You could unlock the Street Fighter character to play as. And so of course many fans fell for this, but unfortunately it was just a joke and he's not actually in the game. Stuffed crocodile. So this is an asset used across several of the RE Engine games. In RE7 it's a jump scare that pops out in the water underneath the house. And in RE2 it appears in the orphanage. And I'm pretty sure it's in the RE3 remake. I remember it being there. I don't remember exactly where though. RE4 Infinite Falling Glitch. So I couldn't find anything too concrete about this, but it seems that sometimes when doing the drop down animation, Leon will just continue falling through the floor and keep going. Jill and Fiona claims. So when RE5 released and people saw that Jill was blonde, a few people claimed that Capcom just reused the asset for Fiona Belly from Haunting Grounds, but honestly, I see the similarities, but it's clear that it's the RE1 remake Jill's face on there. But I can't deny that they look almost identical. It's kind of crazy. The Merchant Network. So again, I couldn't find anything concrete about this, but it may be a reference to the fact that we don't really know how exactly the merchant moves through RE4's world. Like, does he just pick up his stuff every time Leon leaves and like run to the next spot? Does he have like several shops set up? Or are there like multiple merchants? We will probably never know. Floating Ashley glitch. So in both versions of RE4, Ashley can be glitched and just start running in midair. I found this post by Reddit user virtualad9922 of the remake Ash doing this. And I'll link a video in the description of the OG Ash doing this. RE4 Incorporeal Dining Room Chair. So I could not find anything for this one. I assume it means that there's a glitch where the chair in the dining room just like becomes invisible or disappears. But I could not find a single thing about this online. If you have any ideas, comment it down below. Alyssa flashback jump scare. So in Outbreak File 2, while playing Alyssa's scenario titled Flashback, where she explores a rundown hospital in the mountains, you can get jump scared a few times by different enemies that are around. Also in this mode, you meet a man that is named Albert Lester. Real clever, Capcom. So cool. RE5 Ash shots. So there are a very suspicious amount of these shots in the game, mainly with Sheva and Jill. I guess Capcom is no better than us and the RE fandom. 2 Mr. X's at once in the RE2 remake. Okay, we're getting into the good stuff now. So I mentioned in Tier 1 how Mr. X actually searches for the player in the RPD, but there's a glitch where this version of Mr. X and the one that shows up during scripted sequences will show up together, resulting in a terrifying experience for whoever is subjected to it. And I remember seeing this online when the game first came out, and I was just terrified that this would happen to me. Shadow puzzles don't account for hand shadows. That So I assume this means that in a real world setting, the shadow puzzles in RE7 would not work at all. Just because of the fact that your hand would also cast a shadow, while in the game it's just, the block floating in midair. El Gigante Duo Skip. So you can actually skip the fight with the two giants in RE4, but it requires some finesse. So by using the dipping glitch, you can glitch out of the room, and when you re-enter, the giants will just be standing there. And won't fight you. So you can knife their exposed plagas and kill them, which after that the door will open, allowing you to leave. Zombies vomit on the stairs. So in the RE1 remake, zombies cannot grab you while you're on the stairs. So instead they vomit at you, and this has resulted in some players just absolutely cheesing the zombies while running past them. Outbreak File 3. So when Outbreak was first planned, Capcom wanted to make a huge online multiplayer Resident Evil game. And eventually the game was split into Files 1 and 2, and File 3 was planned. And some of the unreleased content has been found, including a scrapped level retelling the Umbrella's agent's attempt to take the G-Virus from William Birkin. There were also plans to include Hunk and the RE2 style of liquors into the game. And while File 3 was never released, Capcom keeps trying to shove RE into different types of online multiplayer games, with every attempt ending in complete failure or the game slowly dying out due to a lack of support. Gender Swapping Tyrant. So in Dead Aim, the main villain is a very interesting one, to say the least. It's a lot to cover, but just to summarize, his main goal is for everyone to become beautiful. So his version of the TG virus turned him into a very curvy female tyrant. Absolute cinema peak. I can't wait for this to be remade. Floating Dead Crows. So in the RE4 remake, there's a glitch where after you kill the crows, they will just stay frozen in midair. And I'll leave a link showcasing this glitch down below. Red Letter Media's Afterlife Hysteria. So while reacting to the end of RE Afterlife, the boys at RLM just absolutely lost it over the nonsensical and silly fight that happens against Wesker. And I'll link it down below. It's only 3 minutes, but it's very funny. Inconvenient building traversing due to puzzle mechanics. So in a normal setting, the layout of buildings in the RE world makes no sense whatsoever. For instance, in order to get to the second floor of the RPD in the original RE2 quickly, RPD officers would have to unlock a puzzle that releases the ladder that allows you to access the second floor. So it just makes no sense. RE6 COVID conspiracies. So just for YouTube's weird guidelines sake, no, this is not a conspiracy about COVID vaccines or anything like that. Please don't take that in this video. But people claim RE6 predicted COVID 8 years before it happened. So these theories include that both COVID and the C virus were made in the lab. Both viruses had a big outbreak in China, and both of them cause high body temperatures. Capcom is Big Pharma confirmed. Code Veronica softlock. So this is an infamous softlock in Code Veronica. About halfway through the game, you'll board a plane and have to fight a tyrant. But it's very important for you to have several resources with you before you board that plane. This includes green grenades, healing items, and lots of ammo. And if the player doesn't have these, beating the tyrant is almost impossible. And if you haven't saved in a while, you're basically screwed. Parking tickets. So this is just a funny line in the RE4 intro when the cops don't want to go with Leon into the village. Kevin Ryman looks like Tom Cruise. So Kevin is a survivor from Outbreak, and yeah, he does. RE8 reused assets. So RE8 uses several assets from the RE Engine games, but this is just kind of a Capcom thing. Several assets have been shared between RE7, 2, 3, 8, and 4, and have also been used in games such as Devil May Cry 5. Tofu in the RE1 remake. So I couldn't find anything concrete, but I can assume that they probably considered adding him into the game after their debut in RE2. In fact, Tofu was almost added into RE3 and can be hacked back into the game along with Dario and Brad as playable characters. And they were almost added into Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and in Super Ultra Dead Rising 3 Arcade Remix Hyper Edition EX Plus Alpha. Holy, that's a title. But if you touch a blue T, you will turn into Tofu and you can play him in that game. Yoko and Monica. So Yoko, Suzuki, and Monica were lab workers in Birkin's lab before the events of RE2, and the two became close friends while working there. But after an accident caused a few deaths, Yoko was traumatized and asked an Umbrella doctor to suppress her memories. And eventually during the lab outbreak, Monica stole a G embryo, intending to sell it to the highest bidder. And she cornered an amnesiac Yoko and stole her keycard, leaving her there. But after Monica was attacked by a giant moth, the embryo broke free and entered Monica, and she eventually confronted Yoko and the other outbreak survivors as they were escaping the lab. Yoko was torn up about it, but left her former friend to die in the lab. And eventually the embryo rejected Monica's body and broke free from her chest, attacking the survivors, but they managed to defeat it. And while in the lab, Yoko regained her memories and was determined afterwards to rebuild her life in the aftermath of Raccoon City. The Terra Grigia Panic. So this refers to a terrorist attack in 2004 on the floating city of Terra Grigia that was perpetrated by the group Veltro. So the city was built on the Mediterranean Sea and housed a large population. Launched from the Queen Zenobia, several UAVs descended onto the city, releasing the T-Abyss virus and several Hunter BOWs into the city. 5 days later, the virus was also released on the Queen Zenobia, killing that crew as well. And during the 3-week attack, several survivors were forced to fight BOWs all throughout the city, and eventually Morgan Lansdale, head of the Federal Bioterrorism Commission, activated the Regia Solis and destroyed the city using a high-energy ultraviolet radiation. In the aftermath, an exclusion zone was set up around the area, which directly led into the events of Resident Evil Revelations. Sweet Home. So this is a 1989 game developed by Capcom. Shinji Mikami was originally asked to remake this game, but the remake eventually evolved into Resident Evil 1. The original game laid the groundwork for survival horror. Its gameplay consisted of puzzles, inventory management, and surviving various enemies. And the plot of the game involves 5 filmmakers entering a haunted mansion and being forced to survive the ghosts, zombies, and other horrors that awaited them. Unfortunately, it never got like an actual remake, but here's hoping they revisit it one day, and maybe spawn a whole new franchise by accident. Purpose of the demo dummy finger. So, while in the main game of RE7, the dummy finger is used to progress through Lucas's section of the game. In the beginning hour demo, it can be combined with the object made of celluloid in order to reveal the location of the dirty coin. And the dirty coin can be used in the main game as an extra antique coin. Nemesis in the RE2 demo. So you can hear Nemi in the demo by going to this section of the game. Old Lady Beneath the Floor. So while backtracking in RE7, you can find Evelyn, who seems to be a little lost. I nearly came. I couldn't find anything about this, and I assume someone probably saw like Ada on a stream or something. But I'm going to claim it as my reaction to seeing Leon in the RE9 trailer, because damn, he looks good. Dilf. Dilf. Code Veronica Infinite Health Glitch. So you can get infinite health right at the start of the game if you prefer a certain set of instructions that I'll link down below. And doing this glitches a herb mix and allows infinite heals. Alex and Natalia. So Natalia Corda is a main character from Revelations 2. And she was orphaned by the aforementioned Terra Grigia Panic. This trauma caused her to be emotionally stunted, which caught the eye of researcher Alex Wesker. Yes, Wesker's unknown sister that only appeared in one game. But she ended up kidnapping Natalia to use her for experiments. And Clara and Moira were eventually able to save her, but she was quickly recaptured and put into a coma. And after 6 months, she woke up with new senses and powers, which also included a darker persona that would appear to her. And eventually, she would meet up with Barry, and the pair would encounter Wesker. Wesker revealed that the Dark Natalia was her own consciousness that she transferred into Natalia. But the group eventually manages to kill Wesker, and Barry adopts Natalia. But 2 years later, she showed signs that Wesker was slowly taking over. RE7 Vinesauce parody. So this isn't the science YouTuber like I thought it would be. This actually refers to the channel Vinesauce, who have done a ton of streams of the Resident Evil games, and I'll link their stuff down below. Biohazard 4D Executor. So, oh boy, this is one of my favorite like niche bits of lore for the series. This was a theme park ride / a 4D film that was released in 2000 and was only available in Japan. Unfortunately, the theme park is no longer available as it closed down, but you can still find the film online, and I'll link it down below. And the story is about a UBCS squad in Raccoon City as they survive the outbreak, and it's just insane. You'll love it. And for our last one, we got Code Veronica is the real RE3. So due to RE3 starting off as a side game before being pushed into a mainline entry, and Code Veronica definitely being a mainline game, even though it's usually not listed as such, and it's not called RE4, a lot of fans feel that this is the true RE3, and especially since it ties together the plots of RE1 while also setting up the plots of RE4 and 5 at the same time. And with that, that is the end of part 1 of Tier 4, the Resident Evil Iceberg, and I will have part 2 up eventually, probably in the next week or so. But without further ado, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.